In the previous video lecture series, we have already seen the organisms, the kind of organisms, the abiotic factors, and how the organisms are able to cooperate with that abiotic factors. And now we are going to study the another factor, that is another content, that is called as the adaptation. And because of the adaptations, the animals are able, or organisms are able to cope up or to cooperate with the abiotic factors. Now, what is adaptations? Adaptations are nothing but the changes adapted, or the changes in the animals. It may be morphological, behavioral changes occurred in case of animals. That is called as adaptation. That means, in simple language, animals, when they are going to some places, they are adapting themselves, they are changing themselves to cope up with that environmental conditions. It may be morphological, their metabolism changes, their behavior changes. That is called as the adaptation. Now, as we all know that there are plenty of organisms, plenty types of organisms are there on this earth medium. Okay, so there are different lives, their behaviors are different, their natures are different. And also, we should know that there are plenty of the conditions on this earth. For example, the simple criteria is there are three of the mediums. One is the aquatic medium, second one is the terrestrial, and third one is the air medium. So, in three of these conditions, the organisms are living. So, they are going to change their methods, their processes, their behavior to live in that such conditions. Similarly, there are again two conditions are there, that is hot condition and cold condition. So organisms, that means animals, plants and microorganisms, live in hot conditions also and cold conditions also. And there are some of the reasons where seasonal hot conditions and seasonal cold conditions are there. So in all that conditions, organisms are living. That means there are different adaptations, different animals, the changes in their body, in their processes to live in that or to sustain in that environmental condition. So we are going to see that adaptations. Generally, there are three types of adaptations, or we can call it as criteria. First one is the morphological adaptation, second one is the physiological adaptation, and third one is nothing but the behavioral adaptation. Morphological adaptation means change in their morphology. Physiological means change or difference in their processes, metabolism pathways, and behavioral change, that means change in their behaviors. So first we will see the morphological adaptation. For that we will see one example from the animal and one from the plant. So in the animal, we will take the example of the desert condition. Okay, in desert condition there is camels. Okay, we know the camel which is live in the deserts, and they are having certain adaptations to sustain their life in the desert. So as we know that in desert there is a scarcity of water and food. So what are the adaptations in the camel? The camels have long legs, that is long arms. Because as there is a lot of heat, the sand is having a lot of heat. So from protect their body from that hot sand, they are having the long legs to avoid that heat. Second adaptation, they are having hump on their back. There is a protrudence, or there is a top region on their back, that is called as hump. It is for the storage of the fat, and that fat, it is useful in the extreme conditions. When there is a scarcity of water is less, then that fat is going to use as an energy source. The third part, it is nothing but as there is a lot of sand and wind, so that to protect from that sand they are having eyelashes are very long, so that they are protected. Apart from that, they are having to conserve the water, they excrete hypertonic urine. That means less water is excreted from the urine, and also they are able to stop the sweating. That means there is no sweating in the camel, and they drink a lot of water at one time and store it into their digestive tract, so that they can use in the extreme condition. That is about the animal. Now coming to the plants which are living in the desert conditions, that is xerophytic plants. So in plants, maximum water loss is by the transpiration, and in case of desert condition, if transpiration is more, then water is lost very much. So the transpiration is performed by the leaves, because stomata are mostly present on the leaves, and by the stomata the transpiration is occurred. So to stop the more transpiration in the xerophytic plants, the stomata are different. Okay, in that the leaves are much reduced, and either or other than it is modified in the spine, so that minimum transpiration is there. We can see that in the picture there is a plants which doesn't have any type of leaves, but they are having green part. That is nothing but their stems, which is taking a green, which is having a green color, and on their stem there is a presence of spines which stops the transpiration. So by that way they are saving their or conserving their water. This is some morphological characters. So now in case of extreme cold conditions also there are some morphological characteristics. That means in the it is said that in the cold conditions, whatever the animals are there, they are having small extremities. Now extremities means the morphological parts, that is for example arms, second one is the pinna and the snout. Okay, so in case of the cold region, the animals are there, they are having small pinna, that means ears. Okay, then they are having small snout region, and they are having small legs or arms. That is because the extremities are there for to lose the heat. So in case of hot conditions, they are having long or large snout, pinna and arms, and in case of cold condition they are having small pinna, snout and arms. So these are some morphological adaptation. Now coming to the second part, that is physiological adaptation. So we will see in the plants. First, that is adaptation in the physiological way. That is, we know that the stomata are different in case of desert plants. That is, stomata are in the epithelial layer inside. Okay, so that minimum loss of water is there, and as if it is in under region, they are having brush like hair like outgrowths, so that whatever the transpiration is there, the water is going to trap there, and so that the region of the stomata is moistened, and as the condition is moistened, the transpiration is stopped. That is the physiological adaptation. The second one is the CAM pathway, that is crassulacean acid metabolism. In that case, the stomata are very different. Okay, they are closed at the daytime, and it is open at the night time. That is called as that is a different type of stomata. So in case of desert plant, during the daytime if transpiration takes place, lot of water is transpirated. But as the stomata is open at the night time, there is no light, so that transpiration rate is very low. That is nothing but the physiological adaptation. That means the process or the pathway is changed. That is called as C4 pathway. In that C4 pathway, there is Kranz anatomy is there. Okay, and by this Kranz anatomy, the C4 pathway is going to run. And dimorphic chloroplasts are also there, that is granule and agranule. By these two methods, Kranz anatomy and dimorphic chloroplast, the transpiration rate is lowered and the plants are able to survive in that extreme hot conditions. This is called as physiological changes in the or adaptation takes place in case of plants. Now coming in case of animals, in extreme cold conditions or extreme hot conditions, there are some of the bacteria or microorganisms are there. So extreme cold conditions, there are anti-freezing proteins in their body, so that in that conditions the proteins are able to active and able to function there, so that these bacteria can survive. In opposite manner, in extreme hot conditions, there are some of the bacteria, for example Thermus aquaticus, which will create the Taq polymerase, and that Taq polymerase, it is used in the PCR, that is polymerase chain reaction. That means the DNAs are going to multiply, going to make multiple copies of it in that Taq polymerase, because in this process the high temperature is there in one step, so our polymerase cannot function there, so that Taq polymerase is used. So physiological adaptations are there in case of animals also. And coming to the last part, that is nothing but the behavioral adaptations. We will take one example of the poikilotherms. Poikilotherms means generally the cold-blooded animals. We will take the examples of some reptiles. Okay, cold-blooded animals, they are changing their body temperature according to the outer temperature. That means the reptiles, some of the reptiles, if the outer temperature is, they are maintaining their outer temperature, and if in some time, if their body temperature is much more reduced from their natural temperature, then they are going to take the basking. For example, we will take the example of crocodile. Okay, crocodile, when their body temperature is much lower, they are out from the water and they are basking in the sun until their body temperature is maintaining there to the external environment. And when, if the temperature of the crocodile, it is, or any of the reptiles, it is increased from their normal level, then they are going into the water. There are some animals, they are burrowing in the soil to hide from the light, so that their body temperature is going to maintain. So basking in the sun is the behavioral adaptation in case of crocodile or other reptiles. So these are three types of the adaptations. It may be morphological, it may be physiological, or it may be behavioral adaptation. And by that adaptations, all the organisms or all the animals and plants and microorganisms are able to survive in any of the conditions, extremities, and to cooperate with the various abiotic factors and problems regarding that abiotic factors. By that way, the organisms, the half part of this lesson is completed. From the next lecture, we are going to study about the population attributes.